On the 6th of October 2016, Ford Australia made the last ever Ford Falcon. What we have here is the FG Series 2, not the last one, the second last one. On my left, we've got the Big 6. On my right, we have the modern 4-cylinder turbo. Today we're going to do a comparison. The Ute versus the Sedan, the modern 4-cylinder versus the lovable 6. Let's see how they go. I've read quite a few reviews of the Ford Falcon EcoBoost. It seems that they all agree that this is the best driver's car. It's generally accepted that the 4-cylinder turbo, straight line speed 0 to 100, is slightly faster. They all agree on one other thing too, and that's the noise. That sounds like a Camry. Now, this is the car I drive every day. I never thought it sounded particularly good. But let's listen to this one. It sounds like a lovely 6-cylinder. So the biggest criticism of the EcoBoost that I've found in my reading and online and different videos is the noise. Once you drive the car for a while, unless you're really into the particular exhaust note, it really doesn't matter. Time to compare the cars back to back. Same road, same mountain. We'll be sticking to the speed limits. Time to go. About 12 months ago, I had to buy a ute. Now, commercial utes are generally awful. They're noisy, they're rough, not very powerful. So I decided to get a Falcon. Very like a car, very comfortable. Being a more for less sort of person, this isn't any old Falcon. It's a Falcon EcoLpi, which means it uses LPG. This car uses about 17 litres per 100 kilometres, and when you're buying gas, it only costs me about $11 or $12 per 100 kilometres. That's partly the reason I became fascinated with the Falcon EcoBoost. 4-cylinder, turbocharged. They're meant to be very efficient. So, this is the Ford EcoBoost engine. This is the 2-litre turbocharged engine. Right here, you really can't see much. You can see the turbo, which is just in there. One thing I like about this motor is this comes off quite quickly. We can now see it. So on a Ford YouTube video, Ford said that the EcoBoost uses 3 technologies to help it conserve fuel and at the same time have lots of power. So the 3 things that this motor has: independent variable valve timing. I'm not sure, but just looking at this motor, this servo here and this servo here independently change the valve timing. In the old days, we only had a single camshaft with set valve timing, which meant that it all had to be a compromise. If you wanted a really good idle, you weren't going to get efficiency at high revs. This all changes now. At idle, it's a very mild cam, so it's a very smooth idle. At high revs and high load, the cams are overlapping a long way, providing lots of efficiency, better acceleration. The second technology that Ford are using in their EcoBoost engines is the turbo. The third technology I can't show you is the direct fuel injection. It's hidden under the intake manifold, and even if I could show you, it's right in the cylinders, so you're only going to see little pipes. One other criticism that most journalists have had for the last 5+ years is the interior of the Falcons is quite plain. In 2001, the BA Falcon was released. In 2013, you can't really tell the difference. It's a real shame there'll be no more Falcons, and it's also a shame there'll be no more Commodores as of late next year. The rise of the SUVs has killed the Australian big cars. There's so much to like about the last of the cars. They ride so well, they're so quiet, and they're really made quite well. It seems everybody is going to 17, 18, 19-inch wheels. What's wrong with 16-inch wheels? Big tyres, smoother, quieter. This car, when it was new, cost $37,200. Barely 3 years later. 100,000 kilometres, 12 and a half. Huge depreciation. But what a bargain. If you're thinking, I'll get a 3-year-old Corolla, you're probably paying more than an honest Australian car. So this is the inline 6-cylinder Barra motor. Now, I've taken my plastic cover off some time ago. Once I'd done a bit of research on what the EcoBoost motor and all its technologies, I thought, is there anything wrong with this motor? And the answer is no. Back in 2001, Ford Australia launched the Barra motor with the BA Falcon. At the time, the Barra motor had 180 kilowatts. It had variable cam timing, but it wasn't independent. When they introduced independent cam timing about 10 years later, they were able to increase the compression ratio. So they've gone from 180 kilowatts to 195 kilowatts. I couldn't show you the injectors on the last car, but on this car, they're right here. The LPG, or liquid LPI motor, was the first motor that Ford ever made with multi-point fuel injection and LPG powered. Motoring journalists universally have said that you cannot tell the difference between the petrol and the EcoLpi. In fact, they say the EcoLpi is more powerful than the straight petrol motor. Never before was that the case. Alright, I want to quote some figures. The EcoBoost 4-cylinder turbo, remembering 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo, 179 kilowatts and 353 Newton meters of torque. The petrol 4-litre 6-cylinder, 195 kilowatts and 391 Newton meters of torque. Same motor with the EcoLpi, 198 kilowatts and 410 Newton meters of torque. Probably more importantly, this car versus this car in a sedan is 60 kilos lighter in the front. So the big question is, if I had to have a Falcon for the next couple of years, which one would I pick? I'd choose this one, the Ford Falcon EcoBoost, for 3 reasons. The way it drives, running costs, and the engine. So it's lighter, it's more agile, feels more responsive in the drive. The running cost, from my experience, it's at least 20% better on fuel, and over a year, probably looking at more than $1,000. 4-cylinder Edjo versus 6-cylinder Edjo, there's another $300 saving potentially. All of this is brought about by the engine. It's quieter at cruise, it's more responsive, and it has a heap of power. What's not to like? So out of the two, I'd choose the EcoBoost. One final comment. Sedan versus Ute. The Sedan has an independent rear suspension. Driven on their own, the Utes are absolutely fine. Back to back today, driving around Mount Cootha with a little bit of energy, I did notice the rear end of the Ute didn't have the same amount of traction as the Sedan. So there you go. Minor points, but you might find them interesting. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to see something like this again, please subscribe.